Hello again, everybody. Red here to show some more of my favorite cards. Before we do that, here's the cards I featured last time, a couple weeks ago. We got the 52 Topps Roy Campanella, beautiful 67 Topps Bob Gibson, and the old 1888 Goodwin Champions Tim Keefe. So the first card I'm going to feature this week is another from the 19th century, from a set the Jefferson Burdick labeled the N300, N for 19th century, and it's the 1895 Mayo cut plug set. Around here you think Mayo Brothers, Doctors William and Charles, and I think their dad and probably a few others, late 1880s, 1890s, started in Rochester, Minnesota, the Mayo Clinic. But this is I think unrelated Mayo, P.H. Mayo. He was an old Confederate soldier, and he had probably one of the largest of the American Tobacco Company factories in Richmond, Virginia. It was called P.H. Mayo and Brothers, and they were producing tobacco. And in 1894 is probably when these actually first came out. I think it was a combination 84 or 94 or 95, looking at different teams players are on and the research that's been done. They came out with this baseball card set. There hadn't been one in the 1890s. You know, the late 1880s, there are all these really cool sets. But this is the first one, the only one, I think, in the 1890s of significance. Here is the packages that the tobacco and these cards came in. And here's the card we're featuring today. One I like because it's not graded, so I'm actually going to take it out like I've been doing, where you can look at cards and what they actually look like raw. This is 1895 Kid Nichols. So I'm going to switch to this angle so you can get a better look at Kid Nichols. Now, they called him Kid because he looked so young, and he actually was young. 1890, his first year in the league, he was just 20 years old, and he was the youngest player ever to make it to 300 wins. Did that by age 30. And so how did he do that? Well, his first 10 years in the league, he won 20 or more games, and 7 of those he won more than 30 games. Led the league in WAR 4 times, but his best year was maybe that rookie season. That rookie year, he had, 12.9 WAR that year. He was playing for the Boston Beaneaters. He went 27-19 with a 2.23 ERA, and he unbelievably completed all 47 games that he started that season. Team finished 5th, but the next 3 years, under manager Frank Seeley, they ended up getting better and better, and then by 1892 they ended up winning the National League with a 102-48-2 record. Now, the Boston Beaneaters also won 102 games in 1898 with these same manager and players, but the franchise didn't win that many games again until 1998, when they were called the Atlanta Braves. So this is the Boston Beaneaters became the Boston Red Sox, or Red Stockings, I guess they were called, but not the Boston Red Sox that we know today, because then they became the Doves and the Rustlers, and then in 1912 they became known as the Boston Braves. Then a short time there in the 30s they changed their name to the Boston Bees. But by 1940, they're back to the Boston Braves, then eventually the Milwaukee Braves in 53, and then the Atlanta Braves, which we know today. But let's go back to that 1892 loaded Boston Beaneaters team that also had Hall of Famers Tommy McCarthy, King Kelly, there's a manager, Frank Seeley, Hugh Duffy, maybe the best player of the 1890s, besides Kid Nichols. And then for part of the season had John Clarkson. They ended up playing the Cleveland Spiders in the World Series, and by that time John Clarkson was a member of the Spiders pitching staff, but he was number 2 because their lead pitcher was Cy Young. So that was the World Series of that year, which the Boston Beaneaters won, beating the second place team during the regular season. That's how they did the World Series, beating the Cleveland Spiders. Just a little more on Kid Nichols. He played 12 years with that Boston Beaneater team. Then he decided to try his luck at buying a franchise, a minor league team in Kansas City, where he coached and owned and pitched for a couple of years. And then he decided to come back to the St. Louis Cardinals, where he had another 20-win season, but retired just a couple of years later in 1906. So in his career, Kid Nichols won 362 games, lost 208, had a 2.96 ERA, and 117 career WAR. And after baseball, he still loved baseball so much that the year he died is like 1952. I think he died maybe in 53, but in late of 52, before getting diagnosed with a cancer, he wouldn't go in because he said, I'm not going in until the 52 World Series is over. He was that into watching baseball. So, legendary Kid Nichols. All right, I think it stopped raining where I can come outside and show my next featured card, and why I'm wearing Clemente jersey today is for my 1956 second year card of Roberto Clemente. This is an awesome card. I'm not going to get a whole lot into Clemente because this is not the last Clemente card I'm going to show, or show it raw. I just think a gorgeous card. And this 56 season is kind of where Clemente started breaking out a bit. Just second season, hit over 300. And just show the back of the card too. Why I love back of the cards and how I learned as a kid. I mean, this is a card how I learned about Roberto Clemente, that how he was signed with the Dodgers initially by reading these cartoons, and then ended up, signing with the Pirates. So that's how I knew that, is from reading the back of his 1956 Topps baseball card, a card I've had for a long time. So awesome looking card, 56 Topps Roberto Clemente. And then my third and final featured card of the day is, we're seeing some of these 52 Topps now popping up more, is the 52 Topps Monte Irvin card. Now Irvin, like his double play partner with the Newark Eagles, Larry Doby, this is actually Doby in an exhibit card in his Newark Eagles jersey, and guy we showed last week, Roy Campanella, were guys that played, a good bulk of their careers in the Negro Leagues and then also in the current major leagues, compared to guys like Jackie Robinson, Ernie Banks, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, that just got a little taste of the Negro Leagues, or guys on the other end of the spectrum like Willard Brown, Satchel Paige, that played a big bulk of their careers in the Negro Leagues and just got a little taste in the now major leagues. These guys had good careers in both. Monte Irvin, in fact, won 3 batting titles. He started in the late 30s, and then I think it was 40, 41. And then after the war in 46, won batting titles. In 42, he had a contract dispute, so he ended up playing in the Mexican League that year and won a Triple Crown there. So that in addition to his 3 batting titles. And then he lost a couple years fighting with the Army in World War II. He was part of the Battle of the Bulge. So like so many of the players that era, lost a few years' time to World War II. The Dodgers were ready to sign him, right after Jackie Robinson, because he was a big star in the Negro Leagues. But Branch Rickey wasn't going to pay his owner, F. Manley, so he held out. He didn't think that was right, and ended up signing a couple years later, 1949, with the New York Giants. They did pay Effa $5,000 to obtain Monte Irvin's rights. And so starting in 49, played with the New York Giants, had some good years. And in 1951, the year Bobby Thompson hit that home run, he was a big part of that team, led the league in RBIs that season, and had a huge World Series against the Yankees, hitting .458 in that World Series. He was also huge in the 1946 World Series in the Negro Leagues against the Kansas City Monarchs. Hit .462 in that one with 3 home runs. So a guy who definitely came up big in World Series. In fact, in his 4 World Series, he had a career 394 average and over 1,000 OPS in 4 World Series. So basically played his whole career with either Newark Eagles or New York Giants, other than his final season was with the Chicago Cubs. He ended up retiring with a .305 lifetime batting average. And there you can see the back of his card. So this is right after that 51 World Series, and they talk about him hitting .458 and getting 11 hits to tie the record in a 6-game World Series. So to recap, those are my 3 featured cards, along with the 3 from last week. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you enjoyed seeing these cards and getting some history of these really cool players to go with their cards.